So, as Tracy just stated, there was another level to those questions, and I know y'all had received the questions prior to this forum, but I would like to give the other candidates an opportunity to answer the profiling question, which is an issue within the schools, city and county. So I would like to give each candidate 1 minute to address the profiling question, and if you need me to restate it, I will.
Racial profiling cannot be tolerated no matter what. Doesn't matter if you're a student, doesn't matter if you're an adult. We got to make sure that it just does not happen. Cannot be tolerated, will not be tolerated.
I agree. It should, and we've got to make not only our SROs aware of that, to be a guardian, you also got to make the teachers, the principals, and all those that are involved to make sure that it's not going on. And our county board of school board needs to have programs to make sure that's not happening in their local schools.
This morning I went to central office there in Asheville City Schools. They had went there to read essays. And when I read the essays, some of the things they was talking about was bullying, racial profiling, and the young people are speaking out about this. And I would tell you that it's heartbreaking to see some of this. So I know that it's happening. I know we're gonna say it can't be tolerated. We gotta come up with plans to help address it, because it is happening. So I'm not gonna stand there and tell you it's not happening. I'm telling you that it is. And that's just based on what I read today. So again, we need to come together and develop strategies to address it. Thank you.
Racial profiling certainly cannot be tolerated. Any kind of negative impact to the students or to the community, again, cannot be tolerated. And we need to be aware of it. We need to be monitoring that. We need to be looking at the data, and we need to be making sure that, again, that those are positive outcomes that when we engage with the community and with our students. When we look at that across the board, we want to make sure we share that information and make sure that we have that data collected and that data is available if anybody wants to look at it to make sure that we are following and keeping up with that information.
As I stated earlier, racial profiling does happen. And as I said a little while ago, we need to get our SROs back in our classrooms and teaching. We need to get our teachers involved in teaching. We need to talk to our school board and come up with a curriculum where we can present to our students about racial profiling, along with everything else that's going on. Our kids, our youth, needs the knowledge and the education that they're going to face in their lifetime. And who better to teach it than the people that's already gone through it? The teachers that see it every day. The school resource officers that are seeing it. They're seeing the bullying. They're seeing the cyber stalking that's going on. So let's, again, put our school resource officers in the classroom and talking that to our students and having that communication and teach them the dangers of racial profiling.
Thank you. The next question is going to begin with Rhonda Lance. In 2017, there was a 10% increase in the number of people experiencing homelessness in Asheville and Buncombe County. The annual point-in-time count conducted in January identified 562 people living on our streets, in shelters, or in transitional housing programs. What is your stance on policing the homeless as it relates to trespassing and private property, and how do you plan to hold your officers accountable on this stance?
Thank you. When I was at the police department, I worked downtown on the bike team and downtown unit for 3 years. So we dealt with this problem on a daily basis with the homeless. And one of it is understanding the homeless community. You have some that are there because they've lost financial situations put them there. You have some that are there because of addiction. You have some on the streets because of mental disorders. And you have a group that comes through every summer in downtown Asheville that are travelers. They tell me they ride the train, they come to Asheville, stay for 2 or 3, 4 weeks till it gets cold, and they load up and head to a warmer time. But Asheville and Buncombe County is very blessed to have so many social networks, so many programs to reach out and help. We work continually with ABCCM, with Christian Ministries, with the many organizations downtown Asheville. And it's understanding first the people in the community. understanding that there is help out there. A lot of people don't want it. A lot of them would tell us, I'm not staying in the shelter, I'm not going. And so understanding the community. In the county, I don't think it's as prevalent, but there is also people, Randy was talking last night, some that are living under bridges. But you've got to respect people's property. The downtown businesses would say, this is my business. They're sleeping in front of my door. They're leaving cans here. Customers can't come. You got to, especially private property and trespassing, if they violate that, what we would do downtown, we'd warn them the first time if they were new, but then after that, you've got no choice. You've got to hold them accountable and seek to get them help and understand, but yet you've got to protect people's private property and the trespassing laws. Thank you.
I want to tell you that I have not worked downtown. So, but I will tell you that we do have homeless not only downtown, but they also on part of the city. I normally work in the north side of the south side of town, and that's out toward the mall. And when we go out toward the mall, there's homeless people out there. And so I still would ask that we treat them with respect and also understand that they are people and they have needs. And sometimes this is about economic status. It's about people just can't do better. And I do believe that it's people that just in transit coming through, and some just want to be there. I do agree that there's a few of them out there that just, we need to start helping them get the assistance they need. And we start talking about trespassing and these other crimes, if you will, or violations of the law, I think we do have to act because it's people's property. And I do understand we need to do that. And I do like the idea that we're giving them warnings and then actually enforcing, the trespassing. So I would again ask that we try to help people because they are in need. And the reason it's not always they just passing through, or it's not always that they don't want help. So we just need to make sure our deputies are prepared to help them if need be.
This is a real problem here in Buncombe County, and I can tell you Buncombe County is a caring community, and our leaders here in Buncombe County fund a lot of programs, and they are quick to do it, and if you bring it to them and you have a reason for it, it can normally be funded, and we have funded some great programs here. But this is one unique problem that we've really not kind of got worked out yet. I can tell you there's wet shelters out here to take people to, but when we create that, we didn't have clear understanding of how these folks would be impacted by that. And one of the biggest problems that we can't overcome is most of the people that our officers engage in regards to these type of crimes and end up in our detention center are either under the influence of a drug or they're intoxicated, and that's a no admittance issue. So we cannot get medical clearance to put them in there, and so the officers are stuck. So we need some tools to help our officers to have a better way to not have to make some kind of an arrest of the folks that are out here, because they're not just homeless, they're having mental issues. It's a mental problem. They're out here on the street and they need our help. And we need to figure out some way that we can get them somewhere besides as a diversion away from the detention center, because we work that every day. I see how that impacts it. The officers get down there, it is a problem, because at some point, if you can't move them on, they have nowhere to go, and they do need to be moved on. The officer only has limited time, and ultimately it ends up with some type of charge. That's a nuisance charge. They end up in the detention center, which costs us money, but also is not the place for those folks to receive the services they get. But I will tell you, we do try in regards to what happens there to make sure that we can get them out as quickly as possible, because they can't normally make bail or bond. But we also, it's not a good model, but I can tell you at least we do get them some medical and mental screening, and hopefully try to get them to an outpatient and try to connect them with services as quickly as we can. But we do need some other mechanism to get them to, because they are under the influence and normally under some type of drug, so they can't get them in until. But there are some models out there that we can sit down and have that conversation about.
When somebody calls the sheriff's office and they want to complain about a homeless, and they say, we want this person off our property, we're duty bound to follow what they want to do. But when an officer shows up, why can't they say, well, let me go down here and talk to this person and see why they're here? They may just be passing through and resting. They may be just laying there going to sleep for a couple hours and move on. So let's have that conversation with the homeless person and see why they're there to start with. And if it's something they're just there to rest for a little while and then move on, then convey that back to the property owner and say, hey, they're just going to be here for a few hours and then they're going to leave. If they don't, call us back, then we'll come back and deal with it. If they need help, then let's find a facility for them to go to and let's take them there where they can receive help. Whether it's up here at one of the homeless shelters or someplace to go get something to eat. Now I understand there's a lot of needs for the homeless people in Buncombe County, and it is a unique problem that we're starting to face. But if somebody's out there and they're just looking for something to eat, or they need a place to spend the night, or they need a place to dry out, why can't we start looking at a program to bring them into the detention center and just let them stay and spend the night? Have that medical evaluation, give them something to eat, let them take a shower, clean up, and then let them go out the next day. You don't have to arrest everybody to put them in the detention center just to give them a place to stay. But we don't need to open it up for everybody to come in. So we've got to be careful of the ones that we allow in out in the county or in the city, but we've got to start opening our doors, reaching out and helping people, regardless of who they are or where they're at. We're morally bound to help people. So let's look at ways to help people. Let's look at different ideas and ways of helping our homeless.
You know, as long as there's checks and balances, right? As long as there's billionaires, there'll be zero heirs. It's not a choice. Nobody ever grows up, turn around saying they want to be homeless. They all want to dream to be billionaires. We all do, you know. Yesterday, and many, many times, you'll find me across that bridge, Sundays and Wednesdays, feeding our less fortunate citizens. We actually helped 3 of them get on their way to Wilmington yesterday back to the families. A year ago, we helped a young lady who was trying to get her Medicare, Medicaid, whatever it was, her financial stuff coming in. My mom, with the church and all, helped get this young lady off the road. And she finally got her money coming in she was supposed to get, and she gets moved up into one of those nice, big, fancy apartment housing buildings. Everything's going good. She's paying her bills. Well, this morning, I turned around and had to go pick her up and help her move. She's still paying her bills. But the experience I ran through is that the people up there in the office, they were getting wrapped around the little bitty things, and they were willing to just throw her back out on the street. I actually spent most of my time today going to their owner, Givens Estate, and talking to the directors. And so I'm going to kind of throw this out there for the community and Givens Estate, because their directors were out there doing it. When I talked to the directors at Givens Estate, they're going to address this. And they're going to actually turn around and help out. Because when I was up there helping her move, there was 2 other people that came to me and they were facing the same thing, elderly, on their Medicaid, their disabilities and stuff like that. And here they're getting tossed out over little minor rules. That, you know, it's kind of like, you know, beating somebody for crosswalk or jaywalking. You know, don't punish our citizens over the little rickety things. Be a bigger man and help our community and our citizens grow. That's why I'm here. So thank you.
Just like being undocumented is not a crime in North Carolina, being homeless in North Carolina is not a crime. We have got to be respectful and compassionate to all the people of Buncombe County. We've got to get back to treating people like people. That's what we've got to do. Now, the offense that a lot of homeless folks are charged with is trespassing on somebody's property. I would like to utilize one of my values in my vision of justice for all called deputy discretion. I'm a firm believer that if we can use encounters with folks who are committing minor crimes, if we can use that as a teachable moment, show the folks the consequences, and if we can prevent somebody from becoming involved in criminal activity, I think that is a great win-win for all of society. But in order to do that, we've got to communicate with the property owners and try to come up with some type of viable solution. We do have a lot of social organizations in Buncombe County that we can work with. Over in Haywood County, Sheriff Greg Christopher found an abandoned building. He procured funding, he procured private funding, and they turned that abandoned government building into a homeless shelter. Why can we not do that here? We've got resources here in Asheville, Buncombe County that we can do that with. That way, we're making sure that folks who are homeless have a place to stay until we can get them the help that they need through the social organizations and maybe Homeward Bound. Maybe we can work with Homeward Bound or Habitat for Humanity in order to find housing for a lot of these homeless folks. Most of them are working. Most of them are trying their best to make a living. It's been my experience that if folks are given some ownership in something, they'll take ownership. Let's give our homeless folks some ownership.